YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back with some more testing. I've had a viewer request that I take a look at the lore of Beast, because people pretty much just use it to spawn a Manticore, either with the Amber Wizard. Not as often with the Bray Shaman Beast, but mostly with the Amber Wizard. But I figured I would use this Bray Shaman with lore of Beast to test out some of this. So let's talk through it. Before I get talking, just real quick, want to remind you all, hey, I appreciate you watching. I'm really honored that you all want to come back and watch my videos and that you're enjoying these. I really enjoy making them for you. And there's a lot of you who have been helping me by subscribing, liking, commenting, all that stuff. It really helps a lot. So just definitely appreciate that. Thank you. If we go to the lore of Beast down here, there's quite a few different spells, and every single one of the spells except for the one that spawns the Manticore has an overcast. And so let's take a look at these, look at their different abilities, and then let's talk through them. Actually, let's talk through them one by one. So we'll start here with Wissen's Wild Form. It's a buff spell. It only affects one ally. Well, that kind of sucks, right? Well, if you overcast it, it's only 8 mana, and it affects everything in a 45-meter radius with 22% weapon damage and an extra 15 armor. Can that be helpful? I think so, potentially. Let's go take a look at a situation on the battlefield. We're going to take a look at a Bestial herd versus a Empire Greatsword. You can see the Greatsword has less, well, it should be, yeah, comparing the two, yeah, so less hit points, less speed, less melee attack, less weapon strength, and less charge. So let's see, the Bestial to me seem like they should win this, but let's just find out. So we're going to fight this fight, see how it goes. I'm going to fast forward. Great Swords, Bestial. Looks like the Great Swords are doing pretty well. This doesn't surprise me. Great Swords are a pretty effective unit. There is 90 of them versus only 60 in the Bestial herd. So the slight stat difference may not be overridden by numbers. And it looks like right now that they are pretty decisively defeating my Bestial herd. So it's probably why you don't see a ton of Bestial herd on the field. They're not a bad infantry unit. They're really not. But they're not really spectacular either. You see they give a pretty close fight to the Great Swords, but the Great Swords are cheaper. So let's try something again real quick. I'm going to go ahead and rematch. I'm back, and we're going to test out Wissen's Wild Form. I don't need to overcast it because I only have one unit here, but let's see if Wissen's Wild Form has a significant impact on the battle. I'm going to buff my my Bestial herd with it right from the very beginning, and I'll use it as many times as I can use it during the fight. The mana cost is only 5. It's not that much. The overcost is only 8, or the overcast version. And now, Bestial have pretty strong weapon damage, so getting a buff to their weapon damage definitely helps. Maybe more than other units as well. You can still see that the swords perform pretty well, but my Bestial herd win the fight. So could it be worthwhile? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to be worthwhile every single time. But you saw here a unit that previously lost can have it used to help them win. So can it tilt a close melee fight potentially in your favor? Yes. Yes, I think it could. So is it a potentially useful spell? You do have to use 8 mana to have it affect multiple units, but think about some of those units. I think it could be potentially a useful spell. It doesn't use a whole lot of mana. So that's my thoughts on Wissen's Wild Form. Let's go check out some other stuff. So the next spell here is Flock of Doom. It's a direct damage spell that says it's strong versus multiple opponents. You can target a ground or the enemy, and it affects all enemies in 100-meter radius, or a 30-meter radius, and it's a 100-meter range to be cast. It has an overcast version that does an extended cast range, so I can now cast it from 300, and it has an extended effect duration all the way up to 14 seconds. A lot of these have stuff that say high chance to opponent will resist the damage. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to test multiple times here, and we'll see if we can get any consistency or not. So let's go check it out. All right, I'm here on the battlefield. We've got a unit of Great Swords I'm going to test on. I'm going to hit them with Overcast Doom Flock. They start at 5850. Let's see what the damage is. That's a pretty significant impact. So that bled off 1,200 hit points from a Great Sword. It does have the ability to be used with the effect area there. I mean, it's not a huge effect area, but if you got a blob of enemies, that just bled off 1,200 hit points. It wasn't an insignificant impact. It was only 9 mana that it cost me. Let's back off and replenish up a little mana so we can cast it again. Now remember that was 1,200-ish mana, roughly, or 1,200 hit points, just shy of 1,200 hit points. Would have been like 1195, I think. Or no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. So it took us 4602 from 5850. So yeah, a little more than 1,200 hit points. So if we're basically starting at 4,600 this time, so let's remember that. So we're going to start it up from 4,600, and let's see if it has a similar effect and if it's consistent or not. You can see I am taking damage on my Bray Shaman from the Overcast. So it was at 4,600, and that time they went down to 34, so that was pretty consistent. So another 1,200. Let's get another 9 mana built up. Okay, so 34 is basically where we're starting this time. Oh, I didn't overcast it. My bad. Well, we started at 34. Let's see what a single, like, not overcasted. So from 34, so you get, yeah, I mean, it's pretty consistent. It's about 1,200 damage for the overcast and about 600 for the other one. So, I mean, is it worth it? Potentially. What happens if we use it against an infantry blob? Does it do 1,200 to both units, or does it spread the 1,200 out? Let's take a look at that scenario. All right, I am back with the second test. 5850 is the starting point for both great swords. Let's see what happens. It is impacting both. Let's see if they both lose 1,200, or if they lose about 600 each. It looks like they're both going to lose 1,200, potentially. Yeah, they both lost 1,200. Exactly the same amount between the two of them. This could be a pretty handy spell if you get a blob. Because if you get a big blob of units and you drop it on there and it's dropping basically equivalent damage. Let's go ahead and hit play. Let's go ahead and drop it again. You can see the pretty consistent damage to me from an overcast. Now in campaign you can get stuff that helps with that. So it was 1,200 from 58 down to 46, and then it should go down to about, yeah, right around 34, a little more that time. So this is an effective direct damage spell, to be honest. I mean, it's not going to kill a unit, but it's going to significantly weaken them before combat. Significantly weaken. So I know it's not supposed to work against a single opponent, but let's just test and see what happens. I'm going to hit a Mortis engine with this just out of curiosity, because it's a pretty popular unit with the vampires right now. Started off at like 57 something. Yeah, he's replenishing the damage as quickly as I can deal it, so it does not appear to be good versus a single unit, as we would expect. So yeah, I mean, it's going to do nothing against a Mortis engine. So probably not good against any single target, as it indicates. Is Doomflock just as good against cavalry? So these guys started at 4768. Let's find out. My guess is that maybe the fewer unit models there are in a unit, the less damage it's going to deal them, but I could be wrong. So they started at 47. It took 1,200 off, or almost 1,200 off of them. Not quite, but I mean, it seems like it did almost as much damage to those Blood Knights as it did a unit of infantry. I don't think I can outrun these guys. If I can't, then I'm dead. Let's see if we can get another one off and see if it does the same amount, and I'll kind of watch a little bit closer this time. Okay, we're getting an overcast. 36 is the starting point. So, let's see what it goes down to. So, from 36... down to 26, 25... Looks like about 1,100 to the cavalry unit both times. That's a substantial amount of damage. This is a useful spell, in my opinion. Doomflock, definitely a useful spell. What do you think? Okay, the next spell up is Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, which gives an extra 22% damage resistance and extra speed. Could be an interesting one if you're rushing. It lasts for a full-on 50 seconds, and if I overcast it, there's an additional effect area, because it only works on one unit this way, but the effect area is 45 meters. Out of curiosity, let's see what we can do with this, like if you were going to be trying to perform, say, like a Beastmen type rush. So let's go test a couple of scenarios. So let's say I have a scenario, and this is just a small scale test of it, but maybe I'm rushing a defensive dwarf formation, and they have skirmishers or cannons or other stuff in position to shoot my Beastmen. I've got these Minotaurs, which have shields, because that might be a common pick versus dwarves to help protect against their missiles. They're about to come within range of the enemy missiles. So, what if I use Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, which I am about to use. Can I use Alt? Yeah, sure can. I can cast this on the ground, too. Alright, here comes Pan's Impenetrable Pelt. So my guys are going to get extra speed and damage resistance. They have shields. Not a lot of effect from the 2 units of Thunderers, all things considered, that we're just going straight into them. Let's see if this helps me. It certainly helped me get to the combat faster. How long is the effect of... The Pan's Impenetrable Pelt has a long effect time, so it's helped my guys get into combat, and they got into combat quicker, so less shots from the gunners. I'll make sure that my guys are attacking the guns. So yeah, it helped my Minotaurs get in here and prevent them from firing. Caused significant damage, and the effect is just now about to wear off. So that's a pretty substantial time, but it does have a long cooldown. But it almost kind of looks like it's almost like a fast charge ability for the Beastmen. It does have limited effect area, so but I mean, if you like kind of buffed your guys up and spread out for a quick rush, could be interesting because we got a lot of extra speed, got a lot of damage resistance. Definitely seemed potentially helpful. I'm gonna try and get back here into these gunners. I mean, my Minotaurs aren't going to be able to beast out 2 or 3 units worth of Longbeards just in a head-on fight. But yeah, no, that is an interesting situation. So pretty pleased with the way it turned out, to be honest. These gunners are trying to get away to be able to shoot at me. Yeah, there's no need to continue testing this because, I mean, it was what it was. Let's see what it looks like if I don't use any of that. I mean, one of my guys took some minor damage on the way in. Let's see if there's any noticeable difference in the amount of time it takes him to get there. I should have counted the number of volleys, but you can always back up and count how many volleys the gunners got and see if there's any difference. I'm beginning the test again. Got my 2 Minotaurs charging. Let's see if there's substantially... I mean, they're definitely slower. I can tell the difference in speed here for sure. Yeah, look, they've already done as much damage to my guys as they did last time. That actually was a substantial effect. They got a little bit more damage done and another shot or 2. Now, granted, this time they kind of moved their Longbeards forward first, but I mean, it definitely helped my guys get to combat sooner with a slightly less damage on them. So, I don't know. Is it worth it? Good question. I think if you're rushing a defensive formation with missiles, it very well could be. And this would be available to the Empire or the Beastmen. So tell me your thoughts on this one. I'm not sure exactly where I stand. I could see it being useful, and I could also see it maybe not being practical in a real battle. Let me know what you think. So the next spell is the Amber Spear. It's quite a bit of mana. It says it causes armor-piercing damage, which is good, effective at all ranges, and it can cause damage to friendly combatants if they're around. 14 gives you an overcast, which adds additional armor-piercing damage and an increased armor-piercing explosion damage. The range is the same at both, so 200. It does not say whether it's good against a single or multiple combatants, so we'll have to kind of take a look at this. Let's go run a couple of tests. Okay, first off, let's just try a standard Amber Spear. Blood Knights start at 4768. Non-overcast Amber Spear, 200 range, I think is roughly what it is. Let's see how it does. So here comes the Amber Spear. 4768 is the starting number once again. You're gonna actually, he didn't even shoot the Amber Spear. What the heck just happened? Let's try again. Even fires the spear at this point. Are you serious? He didn't even fire the spear. What the heck? Alright, maybe 3rd time's the charm. Is he going to actually fire the spear? He sure doesn't. That's really interesting. He's not firing the spear. Well, let's try something different. Maybe he didn't want to fire the spear because he was going to hit his own unit. So if I point him backwards, will he fire it? No, he turns around to try and do it, and he still whiffs. So nothing. Let's try this without the chariot. Maybe it's the chariot causing the trouble. But definitely... There we go. It must have been the chariot. Pretty decent impact. It took off almost 600 hit points there. So 600 hit points for a standard Amber Spear into cavalry. Let's go start testing some other units. Yeah, so someone needs to write a note to Creative Assembly. I'll try and remind them on Twitter, but they need to fix that, how it won't fire from the Beast Chariot. That's kind of a problem. Let's try the Overcast Spear. So again, 4768 is the beginning. That did a lot of damage. It was 14 maned, but it took off about 1,300 hit points from the Blood Knights. So that was a pretty significant amount of damage, and it killed 13 unit models as well. So that's not bad. So these guys can replenish, but they wouldn't be able to replenish those unit models. It would force the use of the Invocation into Heck. So interesting result there. Let's try some different types of units. Let's try this against a lightly armored wizard. So I got Helm and Gorst over here. Basically 2,500 hit points. I got to wait for the magic to build up. So let's fast forward for a second. Amber Spear takes 14 mana to do. I'm going to use the Overcast one just for the sake of curiosity. Alright. Actually, Overcast shouldn't make any sense because he doesn't really have any armor. So let's just use a standard one against Gorst and see if it has any good impact. Not really. Not a very impressive hit. Let's try it on the Overcast. Alright, Overcast Amber Spear into the face of Helmon Gorst. Again, starting at 2,500. Definitely a lot more damage. It definitely does a lot more damage there, armor or not. But doesn't appear to be... I mean, it's not bad versus this low armor guy. Let's test it against some other units and see how it does. So what if you have a scenario where you got a bunch of enemies lined up in a long line and they have quite a bit of armor piercing? I'm going to target this Graveguard with an Overcast Amber Spear because it should go through a bunch of his men. Could potentially hit some of my own depending on the targeting, and it certainly did. You can see it caused a lot of damage to my infantry, but it did a pretty good amount of damage to the Graveguard too, getting me 16 kills. Doesn't seem crazy effective, but again, if it fired along the right trajectory, and that's kind of the challenge, is that it seems like it's kind of hard to tell exactly where it's going to target on the unit, so not sure this is a potentially useful spot for it or not. So does Amber Spear do much damage to a high armor unit like this White King? Let's find out. Look at that. Boom! It did pretty decent damage. Decent. Wouldn't say it was great. Yeah, he lost 700 hit points, so I don't know. It doesn't seem real effective against a single target. Did alright versus cavalry. So unless you all think I'm missing something, I don't think Amber Spear is going to be a particularly useful spell. It's not very good at helping to Lord Snipe. If you could get a significant enough blob and fire it through it, I think it could be somewhat useful, but this is going to be a rare opportunity in multiplayer, in my opinion. Plus, it won't fire off the chariot, so CA, please fix that. That's kind of ridiculous. I think it works from the Griffin, though. I want to say I've used it off the Griffin for the Amber Wizard. Let's go to the next one. This one's the Curse of Anra Air. Ha! It's named after me. How about that? And it can be overcast to give an extended cast range. So up to 400 meters away, you can start to impact the accuracy. The cooldown, though, is 78 seconds, which is a long time. But I mean, it's a pretty significant impact at minus 60% accuracy. Let's go test it and see what impact it has on a couple of units. So this will probably test better if I just use one unit. I got one unit of Ungor Spearherd, 5,760 hit points. I'm going to see how many hit points I have by the time I get even with these Quarrelers in terms of where they originally stood. Actually, let's just say up to a point right in front of them. There we go. So I'm going to run it. Let's just see how much damage my guys take. I'm going to fast forward. So this is with no Curse of Anra Air. Okay, my Ungor Spearherd breaks before it gets there and loses significant hit points. It was down to about 2,000 hit points. So let's see what happens if we use the Curse. We're going to use the Curse. So the Quarrelers get hit by the Curse. Their accuracy is going to be dropped 60%. Let's see if I can get right up in front of them and still be alive. It's not looking good. I don't know, that didn't seem to make a whole lot of difference to me. Let's try one more time. Alright, here's another test. So I hit these guys with the Curse of Honra error. Let's see if I can even get right in front of them. So let's fast forward and find out what happens. I spread out my guys too to try and take less missile damage. That was the best result so far, but they still didn't make it there. And I think the result was probably more to do with my guys being spread out. So I don't know. I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about that. Let's try another scenario. I'm going to try it against Thunders. Maybe there's a better effect on Thunders. Maybe they're not as accurate. So I don't know. Let's just see if I can get anywhere close to these guys. It looked like the Thunder is having a big knockback effect on my infantry. Now, I never tested a Thunder that wasn't impacted. And there was only one Thunder here, so I was able to get a little bit closer. I don't know if this makes a difference or not. I can't really tell a big difference. I don't know. Yeah, this one's questionable. What do you all think? Is there a different way I should test this? I'm just not seeing a big impact from this this accuracy debuff. There's only one spell left, and it's the transformation of Caden. Now, this spell is definitely worth it. It spawns a Manticore for 21 mana. I mean, there's no argument. You get a giant flying monster for no cost whatsoever going to the battle. It's just mana cost. In campaign, this is even easier because you can pick up a lot of items that give you more overall magic pool. But even in a multiplayer match, this can definitely be worth it depending on who you're playing against. Dwarfs struggle with this kind of thing. Other factions that may try and have flying monsters of their own, this can definitely be a help. So, Lore of Beast overall, let's just talk through some of the spells. Wissen's Wild Form. Not spectacular, but doesn't cost a lot of mana. Can definitely have some impact on what would otherwise be a close infantry fight. Flock of Doom, to me, appears to be not quite as strong as like Fate of Buna from patch 1. This thing can cause some damage, though, and I would say that this spell definitely has its place on the battlefield. Pan's Impenetrable Pelt. It seems to have some impact. It definitely helps your guys get to combat faster. Didn't see a huge buff from the damage resistance, but I mean, it had an impact, so I'm kind of wishy-washy on this one as to whether or not it would be worth it. Because you have to use it at 13 to get the added effect area, and your guys would have to be really bunched up to get it to affect all your men. So, it does last for 50 seconds, though. Would help out with the rush. Questionable, though. Is it a poor man's version of Fast Charge from the Swaby? Who knows? The Amber Spear. Potentially does some damage in an overcast version against cavalry to help you out. So maybe you're playing against vampires, you want to weaken up a Blood Knight. Is it worth the spend? I don't know. I'd probably rather just save my mana, go with the Lore of Wild, and spawn a Cygor against the vampires or something. That'd probably be my first pick, but potentially useful, but probably not, is where I'm going to land on the Amber Spear. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Curse of Honra, did I test this one wrong? Am I missing something? Is there something I'm not understanding about accuracy? It just didn't seem to have an impact to me. So that's all there was to that. And then, of course, like I said, spawning a Manticore, why not? So that's my summary of the Lore of Beast. It's not a bad lore, and the reason I think so, Flock of Doom and the Manticore, I think, make this potentially a worthwhile lore. A lot of people just use it to spawn the Manticore. Definitely could see a use for Flock of Doom. How much does Flock of Doom cost to put on your guys? 65. Oh yeah, this is worth it. Totally worth it. Spawn ya Manticore, use the rest of your magic for a Flock of Doom to help twist a fight in your favor. So I definitely could see this being useful. Again, what do you all think? So this Lore of Wild is available, or Beast, sorry, is available to the Beastmen, obviously, but it is also available to the Empire through the Amber Wizard, who also comes with an Imperial Griffin, if one wants such a thing. What would he cost if you adjusted to where that was the only thing you were bringing? Increased power reserves. I mean, I guess you could say that you don't even need that stuff, so 13, 14 would be bare bones to get you just those things. So I don't know, just a thought there. So yeah, you get a Imperial Griffin, you can spawn a Manticore, and you can take 1,200 hit points away from several infantry units, or almost that much from a couple of cavalry units. So I would say that would definitely be a worthwhile spend. That's my summary of the Lore of Beast. Like I said, leave your comments there. Appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed it and you want to subscribe, please feel free. It helps me out. Appreciate your views. Appreciate the likes, the comments, everything else you're doing to support me. Those who support me on Patreon, thank you. Appreciate MSI for having sponsored this build that I'm recording on. HeirofCarthage signing out. I'll see you all next time back in the test labs.